I am Easleep, the storyteller who guides you into rest. With whispers light as the wind and a rhythm gentle as a quiet breath, I'll stay beside you on your journey back to peace after a long day. I wish you a truly good night. Deep, soft and easing. May your tiredness melt away like morning mist, and may sleep come to you as tenderly as a warm blanket. May your night be peaceful, and may you wake with the gentle smile of a new morning. I shouldn't have been on the field that late, and he shouldn't have been there either. Everything about that night felt wrong, or maybe too right in a way that instantly made it dangerous. The stadium lights had already been cut for hours, leaving the field washed in that dim emergency glow, soft enough to hide sins, bright enough to make them undeniable. The first thing I heard was the rhythm, a hollow thud, then another, a rugby ball slapping the turf like someone kicking out frustration one breath at a time. I stopped in the entrance tunnel. The whole place looked abandoned, stands dark, flags motionless, sky sinking into a deep navy. The kind of quiet that made footsteps sound louder, secrets feel heavier. He was at the far edge of the field, only half lit by the hazy strip lights along the walls. Coach Elias, alone, shoulders tight, shirt clinging to him in places where sweat had dried. He moved like someone trying to work through something he didn't want to admit was eating him alive. I shouldn't have watched him that long. I knew it even then. But my feet stayed planted, breath held, body caught somewhere between hesitation and wanting. He kicked again. The ball spun, skidding across the grass. His steps to retrieve it were slower than usual, controlled, but so tired it made something in me ache. You shouldn't be here, I told myself, but loneliness has a scent, and he's always pulled me in like gravity. I stepped onto the field. The grass was damp and cold, pressing through the soles of my boots. My breath floated white in the air, and each step felt louder than the last. He didn't notice me until I was close enough that I could see the faint rise and fall of his chest. He straightened from picking up the ball. His eyes lifted, froze. For a full heartbeat, neither of us moved. You shouldn't be here, he said at last, voice low, voice tired, voice dangerous in the way quiet men become when they finally crack. That makes two of us. His jaw tightened, not with irritation, more like he didn't have the energy to hide whatever he'd come here to feel. He turned as if to kick again, but didn't. His shoulders locked, his breath paused. Long day? I asked, stepping closer. He didn't look at me. Long everything. He always said the bare minimum, and somehow those few words hit harder than paragraphs. He placed the ball on the ground, but instead of kicking, he watched the grass between his feet. You shouldn't see me like this, he murmured. And how exactly are you right now? I asked. He almost laughed, a quiet, humorless exhale. Not myself. Maybe that was the moment, the first sharp tilt between us, when I felt something heavy shift in the air. I closed the distance by another couple steps, enough that he could feel my presence, enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him in the cold air. He finally looked at me, exhausted and unguarded. You're shaking, he said softly. I'm cold, I answered. He looked down, at my hands, at my arms, at the way my breath trembled. Then he stepped closer. Too close. Give me the ball, I said, because words were safer than whatever was happening inside my chest. He handed it over, but not lightly. His fingers brushed mine, slow enough that he should have pulled back sooner, slow enough that I knew he didn't want to. The touch shocked a breath out of me. We began to pass, slow, small throws, nothing serious, but he kept moving closer with each one, a step, then another, until the distance between us wasn't enough for a full throw anymore. When he tossed it again, his hand brushed my forearm, not accidental, not hesitant. My pulse kicked hard. You're distracted, he said quietly. So are you. His gaze dipped, not to anything inappropriate, just to the way my chest rose with each unsteady breath. My jacket was unzipped halfway. The cold didn't bother me anymore, not with him that close. The ball fell from my hands. I didn't even try to catch it. His eyes flicked down for a second, then back to mine. Heat, restraint, conflict. The turf is slippery, he said. You could fall, then can catch me. The words came out breathier than I intended. They hit him harder than I expected. His expression changed, subtle, but unmistakable. Something in him almost gave in right then. His voice dropped. Don't say things like that. Why not? Because I'm trying very hard not to cross a line. My heart lurched painfully. And if I'm already standing on it? I asked. He inhaled sharply, not loud. Tee. Then the ball rolled further away. Irrelevant now. The whole field felt smaller. The world felt smaller. Only him and the way he kept looking at me like he shouldn't. He stepped toward me again, slow, deliberate, as if testing each inch of space we were about to destroy. I felt the heat of him before he touched me. Felt the faint brush of his breath across my cheek. Felt the trembling restraint in the way his hands hovered near my waist, but didn't land. Careful, he murmured. You don't know what you're doing. I do, I whispered. He closed his eyes for a second, like the sound of my voice physically affected him. When he opened them, the control in his expression was cracked, just enough to see the man underneath holding himself together by threads. Touch me, I thought, please, just once. But I didn't say it. The wind swept across the field, but neither of us moved. You're freezing, he said again. This time, not as an observation, more like an excuse to get closer. I'm warm enough, I whispered. He lifted a hand, slowly, and brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. His knuckles skimmed my skin, warm against the cold, and the contact sent a current straight down my spine. That's not helping, I said, voice shaking. His fingers lingered. I know. My breath hitched. My eyes closed without meaning to, and when I opened them again, he was even closer. My back found a support beam near the tunnel entrance before I realized he'd gently, carefully guided me toward it. Not forceful, not careless, just losing control of distance. His palm pressed above my shoulder, against the cold metal, his body angled toward mine without touching. I felt the warmth of him, the tension in him, the way his breath hit my jaw when he exhaled. Tell me to stop, he said, voice low and rough. I swallowed hard. Do you want me to? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. His other hand lifted, fingers brushing the side of my waist, slow, hesitant, trembling with restraint. My breath stuttered. Heat rushed through me in a way I hadn't felt in years. Your heart is racing, he whispered. Yours too. He leaned closer, forehead almost touching mine. His hand slid from my waist to the small of my back. Not pulling, just resting there, warm, solid, unbearably gentle. His lips hovered near my cheek, moving with each uneven breath he fought to control. This is a mistake, he murmured. I know. We can't. I know. Then why? His voice cracked softly. Why aren't you pushing me away? Because you're the first person in a long time who makes me feel anything. His breath faltered. The stadium felt impossibly still. The stands watched in silent darkness. The field held us like a secret it wasn't sure it wanted to keep. His thumb brushed my waist, barely a movement, but enough to make my knees weaken. I shouldn't want this, he whispered. But you do. His eyes locked onto mine, desperate, conflicted, hungry in a way he tried and failed to hide. And then he stopped. His forehead rested gently against mine, his breath shuddering as he tried to pull himself back from something neither of us was ready to name. I'm not who you think I am, he whispered. Then show me who you really are. He let out a shaky exhale, fingers pressing lightly into my back, as if grounding himself through me. I can't lose control. You haven't, I said softly. Not yet. His breath hit my lip this time, just barely. The almost touch set every nerve in my body alight. He whispered, You're dangerous. So are you. His eyes closed, mine did too. For a moment, one fragile, suspended moment, I thought he would kiss me. Instead, he pulled back barely, an inch, maybe less. But enough. Not enough. He swallowed hard, stepping away, but leaving his hand on my waist for one last, lingering second, before it finally slipped free. We shouldn't do this, he said. But we already did, I whispered. The silence after that felt louder than any crowd the stadium had ever held. I wasn't supposed to follow him. I told myself that twice. Once when I saw him slip out of the locker room door without turning on the hallway lights. and once more when I heard the soft echo of his footsteps, fading toward the equipment room. But something in the way he walked, shoulders tight, jaw set, the kind of quiet that doesn't come from anger but from holding too much inside, pulled me after him like a shadow that had finally decided to stop pretending it wasn't attached. The equipment room was half dark, lit only by a single fluorescent bar that flickered like it couldn't make up its mind. The air smelled of leather, wet grass, and something warm beneath it, him. Coach Hale didn't turn around when the door closed behind me. He didn't have to. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, controlled, careful in the way people are when they're trying not to feel something too big. "And yet," I murmured, leaning against the wall, "here I am." He inhaled sharply, barely audible, but unmistakably him, a man who never reacting. When he finally turned, he looked at me like the truth had cornered him. His hair was still damp from practice. A streak of light caught the line of his jaw. His shirt clung to him like the night itself had draped over his skin. I'd seen him angry, tired, proud, disappointed, but I'd never seen him shaken. Tonight he was. "You don't understand," he said softly. Whatever you think this is, it can't happen. That's not what you were saying on the field." He stiffened, every emotion flickering across his face before he could stop it. "I didn't say anything on the field." "No," I whispered, stepping closer, "but you looked." He didn't deny it. His eyes traced my face then, slowly, like an instinct he'd starved for too long, had finally slipped the leash. He wasn't touching me, but it felt like he was. We stood there with only 3 feet between us, but it might as well have been a confession. "You think I don't notice?" I said. "How you watch me when you think I'm not looking? How you stop yourself every time you want to say something real?" His jaw tightened. "You don't know what I want." "Then tell me." Silence settled between us, thick, electric, trembling. The kind of silence that only exists when 2 people are 1 breath away from crossing a line that has been waiting for them far longer than either of them will admit. He moved first. Not toward me. No, that would have been too easy for him. Instead, he braced one hand against the shelf beside him. Head bowed, shoulders rising and falling with uneven breaths. "I shouldn't want this," he said. "I shouldn't want you." "But you do." His eyes met mine, raw, unshielded, devastating. It was the first honest moment he'd allowed himself all night. "Yes," he whispered. "God help me, I do." The confession didn't break him. It broke something open. The air between us tightened, pulled taut like the moment before a storm breaks. I stepped forward until I could feel the heat radiating from his body, until my words brushed the space between his lips and mine. "You don't have to pretend with me," I whispered. "Not here, not tonight." Something inside him finally snapped, not in anger, but in surrender. His breath hitched. His fingers curled against the metal shelf as if he needed something solid to anchor himself. "Do you know what you're doing?" he asked. "Yes." "Do you know what I'm doing?" I smiled, soft, knowing, unafraid. "You're letting yourself want something for once." His eyes softened with something dangerously close to longing, something he'd never allow in daylight. And just when I thought he might step away, he stepped closer. Not enough to touch, just enough to ruin me a little. "I shouldn't touch you," he murmured, his voice brushing the shell of my restraint. "But right now, it's taking everything in me not to. Maybe I don't want you to hold back." His breath trembled. "If I stop holding back," he whispered, "I won't stop at all." The fluorescent light flickered again, dimming the room, deepening the shadows around us. Like even the building itself knew this moment wasn't meant for the world outside. And in the half-dark, with only inches between us, he said the one thing that unraveled me more than any touch could have. "Tell me you want this, and I'll forget every reason I shouldn't." The door stayed closed, the night stayed silent, and I stayed exactly where I shouldn't be, dangerously close to a man who never crossed lines until the moment he met me. If he had stepped away first, maybe I could have pretended the moment meant less than it did. But he didn't. He stood there, too close, too warm, too much. And something in the way he breathed told me he'd already crossed the line, even if neither of us had touched the other yet. His hand was still braced against the metal shelf, but his other hand, it hovered near me, as if unsure whether to reach or retreat. "Say something," I whispered. "I'm trying not to," he said. "Why?" "Because if I say what I want, I'll do what I want. And I don't know how to walk that back." There it was, raw, unfiltered, terrifyingly honest. Coach Hale wasn't a man who broke rules. He carried them, lived them, built walls with them. But tonight, those walls looked like they'd been cracked by a single simple truth. He wanted me, enough to fear it. "Look at me," I said. He did, slowly, like it cost him something. His eyes weren't guarded now. They weren't Coach's eyes, or mentor's eyes, or the eyes of a man who had spent years pretending he'd forgotten how to want. They were the eyes of someone who had been starving. "You think I haven't noticed?" I said softly. "The way you breathe differently around me. The way you watch me like you're trying not to." "Don't," he murmured. "Why not?" "Because you're right." He took a slow breath, chest rising just a little too sharply. "I've tried to ignore it. God knows I've tried." His voice dropped to something lower, something almost like confession. "But every time you step onto that field, every time you look at me, like you see past everything I'm trying to hide, I lose a little more control." He was close enough now that his breath brushed my cheek. Not a touch, just the ghost of one. "Control isn't everything," I whispered. "It is when you're me," he said. "It is when you've spent years convincing yourself you don't need anything from anyone." I stepped closer, not touching him, not yet, but enough that the space between us narrowed to a single, trembling breath. And now, his jaw tightened. "Now I'm not sure what I need, but I know it has something to do with you." The words hit me harder than any kiss could have, because they weren't smooth, they weren't planned. They were the truth of a man who had been holding himself together for far too long. His hand finally moved, not to touch me, but to trail his fingers along the edge of the shelf near my waist. Close enough to feel, not close enough to claim. "Enough. You don't know what you're asking of me," he said. "Then show me." He closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering whatever was left of his restraint. And when he opened them again, something was different. Something unguarded, something dangerous. "You don't understand," he said, voice barely above a breath. "If I touch you, it won't be gentle curiosity. It won't be a mistake. It won't be something I can pretend didn't happen." He leaned in, just a fraction, until our foreheads almost brushed. "It will be everything I've held back, all at once." The fluorescent light flickered again. The room hummed with its dying glow. My pulse echoed in my ears. And then, his fingers brushed mine. Not a grab, not a claim, just that first point of contact. Skin to skin, so subtle it could have been accidental. But it wasn't. It was deliberate, careful, devastating. He looked down at our hands, at the tiny place where we touched, like he was watching something impossible happen. "I shouldn't do this," he whispered. I curled my finger around his, barely, softly, like an invitation. "Then don't stop." His breath caught, sharp, unsteady, broken in the way only desire can fracture a man who has spent his whole life controlling every piece of himself. "God," he exhaled, "you're going to ruin me." He said it like it wasn't a warning, like it was a wish. The last of the fluorescent light buzzed, casting the final glow across the room, and in that trembling half-dark, he finally lifted his hand. Lifted. Not to pull away, but to touch my jaw. Slowly, tentatively, with a reverence I hadn't expected from a man like him. As if he dreamed of this before he ever allowed himself to imagine it. "You have no idea," he murmured, thumb brushing the edge of my cheekbone. "How long I've been holding this back." I leaned into his touch. "Then stop holding." His thumb stilled, his breath hitched, and the last of his restraint began to unravel. Right there, in the quietest room of the stadium, with the world outside forgetting we existed, he let himself want me, for the first time without looking away. He didn't kiss me, not at first. Instead, he stayed there with his forehead almost touching mine, his hand warm against my jaw, breathing like he was trying to memorize the moment before he destroyed it. "Tell me to stop," he said. "I won't." "Tell me anyway." "No." His eyes closed, like my refusal physically hurt him. This was new to me, a man fighting not for permission, but against his own need. When he opened his eyes again, the battle inside him was still there. But so was something else. Something softer. Something almost tender. "You're too young for this," he whispered. "I'm 36, still too young." "You're 53, I said, "not ancient." "That's not the point." "What is?" "That I shouldn't want this." His voice cracked, just once. "But I do, more than I should, more than he wanted to admit, more than he knew how to carry." I slid my hand up his chest, not bold, not demanding, just steady, until my palm rested over his collarbone. He inhaled sharply, like the warmth of my hand was the first real contact he'd had in years. "Hale," I said quietly, "I'm not going to break." He shook his head. "No, but I might." The honesty in that hit harder than anything else he'd said tonight. His thumb brushed the corner of my mouth, slow enough to feel like hesitation, but certain enough to feel like surrender. "I don't know how to do this anymore," he murmured. "I don't know how to want without losing control." "You don't need control right now," I whispered. "You just need to be here." His jaw tightened, like he was trying not to feel my words, like they landed in a place he'd boarded up years ago. Then his forehead touched mine, just barely, a soft accidental collision of breath and warmth. He didn't kiss me. He just leaned there, breathing with me, like that tiny contact was already too much, too intimate, too close to the truth he'd been running from. "Tell me what you want," I whispered. He exhaled against my lips, slow, shuddering, almost broken. He swallowed. "I want to know this is real." I slid my arms around him, not pulling him closer, just fitting them around his waist, steady and gentle. "It's real." He let out a sound then, not quite a sigh, not quite a groan, but something heavy, something he'd been carrying alone. And then finally, his hand moved to the back of my neck. Not forceful, not urgent, just firm enough to feel unmistakably like a choice. His lips brushed mine, only a ghost of a touch, a hesitant, trembling, almost kiss. A test, a permission, a confession. He didn't move again. He just held there, barely touching, as if waiting for me to close the last millimeter. "Hal," I whispered. His fingers tightened, just slightly, as though bracing for impact. So I closed the distance. Our lips met, soft, warm, slow, like he was afraid of taking too much, or afraid he didn't deserve any of it. He kissed like a man remembering how, like someone who had taught himself for years not to want, and now couldn't hold it back. His other hand slid around my waist, hesitant at first, then firmer, pulling me closer until my body pressed against his. The sound he made against my mouth, low, involuntary, lit something inside me I wasn't prepared for. I whispered into the kiss, breathless, "Don't hold back." He pulled away just enough to speak. "I'm trying not to take advantage." "You aren't. You don't know that." "I do." He pressed his forehead against my cheek, exhaling into my skin. Warm, trembling, like his restraint was unraveling thread by thread. "I can't remember the last time someone touched me like this," he admitted quietly. "Like they wanted me." My heart clenched. He wasn't talking about desire, he was talking about being seen. He lifted his head, eyes dark, uncertain, hungry in a way that wasn't about lust, it was about absence. It was about years of silence, years of pretending he didn't need anything from anyone. I cupped his face with both hands. "I see you," I whispered, "all of you." That broke him. Or maybe it saved him. I couldn't tell. But his hands finally pulled me into him fully, without hesitation, without apology. His breath caught against my lips as he kissed me again. Deeper this time, steadier. The kind of kiss that made my knees weaken and the room tilt slightly. He wasn't careful anymore. He wasn't gentle. He was present, completely with me. His hand slid to my lower back, guiding me closer until there was no space left between us. Just warmth and breath and the quiet sound of two people losing the fight they'd been holding inside for too long. "Hale," I breathed. He squeezed his eyes shut, resting his forehead on mine again. "If we keep going," he said, voice rough, "there won't be a way back." I didn't hesitate. "Then don't go back." His breath hitched. Pain, desire, fear, all tangled into one sound. "You don't understand," he whispered. "You could be the one thing I can't recover from." I slid my hand to his chest, feeling his heartbeat, fast, unsteady, younger than his age. "And you?" I whispered. "You might be the first thing that makes me feel alive again." His hand tightened on my waist, and the room went impossibly still, as if the rest of the world already knew we were about to cross the point of no return. He didn't move for a long moment, just stood there with his hand on my waist, his forehead barely brushing mine, breathing like he was trying to steady himself, like every breath might push him past a point he'd been terrified of crossing. "Hail," I whispered. He exhaled through his nose, slow and uneven. "Don't say my name like that." "Like what?" "Like you want something I shouldn't give you." But his thumb stroked my waist in one slow, unconscious sweep, a motion too instinctive to deny. "You're already giving it," I said quietly. He froze. His eyes opened, dark, unguarded, flooded with something I'd never seen in him before. Not lust, not even fear. Hunger. Old, buried, starved hunger. "I don't know how to stop wanting you," he whispered. I felt his restraint crumble. Not in the way he touched me, but in the way he looked at me. Like the last of his defenses had finally cracked. God, he's been alone so long. My chest tightened. I lifted his hand and placed it flat against my stomach, gentle, steady, letting him feel the tremor under my skin. His jaw clenched, hard. "Don't," he murmured. "Why?" "Because I can't." He closed his eyes. "I can't be gentle anymore." "You don't have to be." His eyes snapped open, sharp, stunned, disbelieving, like no one had ever told him that before. The hand on my stomach curled, his fingers spreading slightly, pulling me closer by an inch. Just an inch. But it was enough to send heat rushing through me. "Hail." "You're shaking," he whispered. "So are you." His breath hitched, and then his other hand slid up my back, under my hair, gripping the base of my skull, with a tenderness that didn't match the tension in his body. He held me like he was afraid to lose me, but also afraid to take me. "Tell me what you're thinking," I whispered. He didn't answer. He just pressed his forehead to the side of my neck, his breath hot against my skin. One slow exhale that made my knees weaken. "Please," I murmured. His voice came low, rough against my throat. "I'm thinking, if I touch you any more than this, I won't be able to stop." My fingers slid into his hair, a soft tug drawing him closer. "I don't want you to stop." His breath broke, actually broke, like the sound of a man losing a battle with himself. Then he turned his head and pressed his lips to my neck. Not a kiss, not fully, just a warm, shaky press of his mouth against my skin, so gentle it made everything inside me tighten. I gasped, whispered, "Oh, God." He froze again, not pulling away, but feeling my reaction like it shook something loose inside him. "You can't," he murmured, voice shaking. "You can't make sounds like that." I didn't mean to. That doesn't help. But he didn't move his mouth from my neck. He didn't breathe, didn't step back, didn't reclaim the space we both knew was slipping away. He just stayed there, his lips barely brushing my skin. A man on the edge. "Hail," I whispered again, weaker this time. His fingers tightened in my hair, his body pressing closer, slow, inevitable, like gravity finally won. I felt the warmth of his breath as he whispered, "Say it again." A low, broken sound escaped him, the first sound he hadn't tried to hide. He lifted his head just enough to look at me. His eyes were, God. That was the moment I knew he wasn't stopping. His restraint was gone, not violently, but like something quietly snapping inside him after years of being stretched too thin. He cupped my face with both hands. Not rough, not rushed, desperate. He kissed me, deep this time, sure, full. His mouth claiming mine with a weight that made my breath catch and my heart trip over itself. I moaned into his mouth, a stuttering, broken sound I tried to hold back. He groaned softly, the sound vibrating against my lips. "Don't do that," he whispered. "I can't, help it." "You're killing me." His hands slipped down to my hips, gripping me firmly, pulling me against him in one smooth, undeniable motion. The breath left my lungs. My legs trembled. His forehead dropped to my shoulder, his breath hot and ragged. "I can't believe this is happening," he murmured. "Then don't think." He laughed under his breath, a warm, exhausted, disbelieving sound. Thinking hasn't helped me so far. And touching? He exhaled sharply, lifting his head. Touching might ruin my life. He cut my jaw again, gentler this time, his thumb brushing my cheek. But God help me. His voice dropped to a whisper. It feels like the first thing that's kept me alive in years. My throat tightened. He doesn't want my body first. He wants the part of himself he thought was dead. I rested my forehead against his. Then stay, I whispered. His breath caught. His hands tightened on my hips, and in the half-darkness of that quiet room, his walls finally fell. He lifted his head slowly, like every inch mattered. Like once he touched me again, he wouldn't trust himself to stop. Hale, I whispered, breath catching. Look at me. I shouldn't, he murmured. Why? Because every time I do. His fingers tightened around my hips, subtle but unmistakable. I forget why this is wrong. I slid my hands up his chest, feeling the tension there, the heat under his shirt, the way he held himself like a man bracing against a storm. You're allowed to want something, I said softly. His jaw clenched. I'm not. Then want me anyway. His breathing changed, sharper, deeper, like he'd been holding it for too long. You don't understand, he whispered. If I want you, it won't be careful. My heart thudded. I don't want careful. He shut his eyes, just for a heartbeat, as if my words were both a blessing and a blow. When they opened again, something in him had shifted. Not lust, not boldness, permission. He lifted one hand from my hip and let his thumb trace the line of my lower lip. Slow, shaking, reverent. You have no idea, he murmured, what you're doing to me. His touch barely pressed, but I still gasped. A soft, fractured sound. Hala. His breath caught. That low, aching inhale he never meant for me to hear. Don't make sounds like that, he whispered. I'm trying, I breathed, to stay still. He shook his head. You're not still at all. He slid his hand from my lips to my jaw. His palm warm, large, steady. A man's hand. A lonely man's hand. Then down the side of my neck, slow enough to make me shiver. Hale. Don't talk, he murmured, pressing his forehead to mine again. Just let me feel this. He held me there for a moment. Just skin to skin, breath to breath, his thumbs brushing my waist like he was memorizing me. Then his hand moved again, down the curve of my side, across my hip, around to my lower back, pulling me closer. My body met his, warmth on warmth, the steady pressure of his restraint thinning. My breath stuttered. Oh, God, no! He inhaled sharply, a deep, rough sound that felt like a man finally letting himself feel everything he'd buried. You're shaking, he whispered. So are you. I'm trying, damn it, to be a good man right now. You are? No. His forehead touched my cheek, his breath hot against my skin. Good men don't want like this. He pulled me tighter, close enough to feel the strength in him, the weight, the tension of someone who'd denied himself too much for too long. Hale, I murmured. It's just us. No one is watching, no one is judging. He laughed under his breath, a low, broken, disbelieving sound. That's the problem, he whispered. With no one watching, I don't have to pretend I don't want you. His lips brushed my jaw, accidental, hesitant, but devastating. I made a sound, a soft, trembling exhale. He froze. Then, say it again. Yala. His breath shuddered against my skin. Again, Hale. A quiet, tortured groan left him. The kind of sound a man makes only when he's been starving for too long. He leaned back just enough to see my face. His thumb stroked my cheek, slow, intimate, unbearably tender. Do you know, he whispered, how long it's been since someone said my name like that? I swallowed hard. No, years, his voice cracked. Years of being needed, but never wanted. A tight ache pulled through my chest. God, that's his wound. Not loneliness, but being invisible while living anyway. I wrapped my arms around his neck. Hale, I whispered, I see you. His hands gripped my waist, firmer this time, hunger slipping into the edges of his restraint. Don't say things like that, he whispered. Why? Because I'll start believing you. I want you to. He closed his eyes, breathing unsteadily. You're going to ruin me. Then let me. His eyes opened, dark, raw, finally unguarded. And then he kissed me again. Not hesitant. Not careful. Deep, slow, claiming. His hands lifted me slightly, guiding my body against his with a confidence that wasn't bold, just honest. I moaned into his mouth, a broken, stuttering sound. His breath faltered. His fingers dug into my waist. Jesus, you're going to be the end of me. He pressed me against him, forehead to forehead, breath shaking. If we take one more step, he whispered, there won't be a way back. I cupped his jaw. Then don't step back. He exhaled, slow, tortured, surrendering. His thumb traced my bottom lip again. God help me, he said softly. I'm falling. His voice wasn't lust, it wasn't excitement. It was relief, like falling was the first thing that had felt like living in years. The first thing I heard was my own breathing, not his. Not the echo of footsteps in the tunnel, not even the hum of the stadium lights cooling. Just mine, shallow, unsteady, the kind of breath a person takes when they're not sure if they're allowed to want what they want. I didn't know how long I'd been leaning into him. All I knew was the warmth of his body behind me, solid and unmoving, like he didn't trust himself to shift even an inch. His hands were still at my waist, tentative yet certain. Fingers curled as if memorizing the shape of me through layers of fabric. Are you okay? He murmured. His voice wasn't rough, though it trembled like he'd swallowed something he shouldn't have. It brushed the back of my neck, softer than breath, warmer than it had any right to be. I don't know, I whispered. He exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled, too controlled. Tell me to stop, he said. I couldn't. The word stop tasted impossible. Instead, I turned around. His eyes were darker than the tunnel, darker than the field behind us. There was a kind of desperation in them, not wild, not reckless, but restrained, like he was holding back the full tide of himself with nothing but discipline and fear. Fear of what crossing this line would mean. Fear of what it would take from him. And maybe fear of what it would give back. I lifted my hand to his jaw. He froze, not because he didn't want it, but because he wanted it too much. And that terrified him, more than anything. Look at me, I said quietly. He did. No flinch this time. No retreat. Just a man who'd spent too long wanting things he convinced himself he didn't deserve. And a woman who was suddenly, selfishly, achingly willing to be wanted. I shouldn't, he said, voice cracking at the edges. You already did. That's not the same. It is to me. His breath stuttered. My thumb traced the faint scrape of stubble along his cheek. I felt him lean in, not forward, but into the touch, like his body made the decision before his mind allowed it. You have no idea what you're doing to me, he whispered. I do, I answered. That's why I'm still here. Something inside him buckled, not visibly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a lock clicking open. He lifted a hand to the back of my neck, fingers sliding into my hair with such careful restraint it made my heart twist. His forehead leaned against mine, and for a long moment, neither of us moved. We just breathed. His lips brushed mine. Not a kiss, not even pressure, just the suggestion of one, like a question he was too afraid to ask out loud. Tell me this isn't a mistake, he said. Then it won't be, I whispered. He inhaled sharply, the sound too raw, too human, too revealing. Then finally, he let himself touch me. His mouth met mine gently at first, soft enough that I felt the hesitation trembling in the kiss. But it deepened almost immediately, not because it grew urgent, but because it grew true. His hands tightened at my waist, not pulling, but holding, like he wanted to feel every part of the moment before he dared ask for more. The kiss wasn't messy, it wasn't rushed, it wasn't the kind that devours. It was the kind that confesses, slow, searching, silent except for the tiny, involuntary sound I made when his thumb brushed the inside of my wrist. He felt it and stopped kissing me long enough to whisper against my lips. Don't make that sound unless you want me to lose every bit of sense I have left. Maybe I want that, I breathed. His laugh was barely a sound, just a warm, disbelieving exhale. You're going to undo me, he said. You already are. The way he looked at me then, God, It wasn't lust, not just, it was relief, like he'd been dying of thirst for years and finally let himself take a sip. He rested his forehead against mine again, breathing hard, the weight of everything we weren't supposed to be pressing invisibly between our bodies. "Say something," he said finally. "Why?" "So I know you're real." I smiled against his mouth. "I'm real, and I'm not going anywhere." His hands tightened around my waist, gentle, scared, hungry. Then he said it, the thing he'd been trying not to say since the first moment he let himself look at me that night under the dead stadium lights. "I want you," he swallowed. "I want you more than I should." I didn't answer with words. I kissed him again, slow, lingering, decisive, because some lines aren't crossed in silence. They're crossed in the way two people finally stop pretending they don't want the same thing. We left the field too late. The floodlights were already off, leaving the entire stadium washed in that heavy, echoing kind of darkness that makes everything feel closer than it should. He walked ahead of me, shoulders slightly hunched, steps slow in a way that told me he'd been carrying too much all day. I followed him down the tunnel, the air thick with the scent of wet turf and cold metal. Every sound was too loud, our footsteps, our breathing, the soft scrape of his jacket when he lifted a hand to his forehead. His shadow stretched across the concrete wall, long and steady, but his body wasn't steady at all. There was a tremor in the way he lowered his hand, the kind only someone who's been watching him too closely would notice. He always falls apart in silence, never in words. I touched his back, just enough for him to feel me. He stopped, turned. His eyes still held the leftover heat from what happened between us under the bleachers, something I shouldn't want to think about but couldn't stop seeing in flashes. His breath on my neck, the way his hand shook like he'd forgotten what it felt like to hold someone. Nothing happened in the tunnel, not really, just a look, longer than it should have been. Nearness that felt like gravity, a pull too strong for either of us to deny. He pulled me closer, not forcefully, more like someone afraid they might break the very thing they're reaching for. "You should go home," he murmured, but his voice cracked halfway through the word should. I opened my mouth to answer, but then a metallic clank echoed down the tunnel, a door, someone entering. He dropped his hand instantly, but not fast enough. The heat of his palm still burned on my hip. He stepped away, trying to look like nothing was happening, breathing hard, but pretending he wasn't. His shoulders stiffened, his jaw locked. Another sound, footsteps, heavy, rushed. I backed against the wall, heart rattling. If someone sees us, everything will end. Not just the thing between us, but his career, his reputation, his family, all of it. He glanced at me, just once, and that single look was a mix of warning, apology, longing, and pure fear, all at once, all in 1 second. The figure came into view, Devon, the assistant coach, the last person who should be here. He looked at us, really looked. The man I wasn't supposed to want didn't flinch, didn't even blink. He pulled out his phone like he was checking a message, but his hand in his jacket pocket had curled into a fist so tight the tendons stood out. "You're still here?" Devon asked. He nodded, voice calm in a way that didn't match the electric tension between us. "Yeah, just locking things up." His voice was steady, too steady, the steadiness of a man trying not to fall apart. Then Devon looked at me. "You still here too?" I forced a smile that felt like it might crack my face. "Yeah, I was wrapping some things up." A beat of silence, then another, the kind that drags on too long and exposes everything you're trying to hide. If Devon looked just a little closer, if he looked at our hair, our clothes, our breathing, he would have seen everything. Finally, he nodded. "All right, don't stay too late. Make sure the back door locks." When his footsteps faded into the dark, I let out a shaky breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The man in front of me inhaled sharply, a single, deep, guttural breath, like someone surfacing from underneath water after holding his breath too long. He pressed a hand to his face, then braced the other against the wall, head lowered. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The tremor running through his shoulders said enough. Fear, relief, longing, guilt, all tangled together. I stepped toward him. He shook his head. Don't. Not because he didn't want me, but because if I touched him now, if I gave him permission, he wouldn't stop, and neither would I. He was the one who stepped back first, not far. Just one slow, deliberate step. The kind a man takes when he's choosing the right thing over the thing that's already burning through him. His hands were still shaking a little, not visibly, but enough that I saw the tremor when he reached for the strap of his bag, gripping it too hard, as if holding something solid might keep him grounded. I need to lock up, he said. It wasn't dismissal, it wasn't distance. It was the voice of a man forcing himself to act normal, because if he didn't, he'd fall apart right there in the tunnel. Okay, I whispered. My voice cracked. I didn't even try to hide it. He looked at me again, a soft, rough, almost broken look. The kind of look that only lasts a second but stays with you for hours, maybe years. Get home safe, he murmured. That was all. But the way he said it, God. It felt like an apology, a goodbye, and a plea all in 3 quiet words. He walked toward the far exit, the one leading to the coach's lot. His steps were heavy, slow, like each one cost him something. He didn't look back. He couldn't, and I stood there long after he disappeared into the dark curve of the tunnel. Walk away, just go. He wants space. He needs space. But my feet wouldn't move, because the air still smelled like him, because the silence still held the outline of his body, because I could still feel the warmth of his hand on my hip, even though it had been seconds, or a lifetime, since he pulled away. Finally, I forced myself to take the opposite exit, toward the staff lot, but every step felt wrong. The stadium was empty, the kind of empty that makes every sound echo too much. The click of my heels, the rustle of my jacket, the tiny, betrayed hitch in my breath when the cold air hit my face. My hands were shaking. I shoved them in my pockets like that could hide it. Why does it hurt like this? We didn't even touch, not really. But it wasn't physical distance tearing at me. It was something deeper. The unspoken, unsaid, unallowed thing that couldn't be named because naming it would make it real. When I reached my car, I didn't get in. I leaned against the door, staring at nothing, breathing the night air, like it might fill the space he'd just emptied inside me. Then my phone buzzed. I didn't even check the screen. I already knew it was him. I opened the message. Are you home yet? 5 simple words, nothing dramatic, nothing inappropriate. But the timing, barely 2 minutes after we split paths, told the truth he was trying to hide. I typed back, not yet, you? The response came faster than it should have if he'd been walking away without looking back. I'm still in the tunnel. My breath caught. He hadn't left. He hadn't made it to his car. He was still standing in the same cold air I'd just walked through, still stuck in the same moment, still unable to move forward even though he told me to. I closed my eyes. He texted again, just making sure you're okay. I felt something warm and painful curl beneath my ribs. He wasn't checking on my safety. He was checking on the part of me he was afraid he'd broken. I typed back, slower this time. I'm okay. A full minute passed, then 2. I thought he'd left it there. Neat, safe, closed. Then my phone lit up again. No, you're not. My breath shuddered out of me. He added, I'm not either. The world stopped, just for a second, just long enough for the ache between us to sharpen into something undeniable. I leaned my forehead against the roof of my car. I should have lied. I should have said I'm fine. I should have protected both of us. But I didn't. I know. The 3 dots appeared, stopped, appeared again, stopped again. He was wrestling with something. Guilt, longing, fear, truth. Probably all of it. Then, go home before I do something stupid. But the message that followed broke me. Or maybe, before I don't. I pressed a hand to my mouth, trying to quiet the sound that escaped. Half a breath, half a sob. Because that was him. That was the man he tried so hard not to be. The man who wants. The man who aches. The man who's terrified of the wanting, but more terrified of losing it. I typed back, good night. He didn't reply, not for a long, long time. I finally got into my car and drove off. Slowly. Like leaving the stadium meant tearing myself out of a place where something dangerous and beautiful had almost begun. When I reached the first traffic light, my phone buzzed once more. "Good night, sweetheart." I closed my eyes. A single tear slid down my cheek. Not sadness, not regret. Just that unbearable, impossible ache of two people walking away from each other while still facing the same direction inside. I was half asleep when my phone buzzed. One long vibration that cut straight through the thin quiet of my apartment. For a moment I didn't move, hoping it was just a notification, a missed email, anything that wasn't him. But the screen lit up the dark. Coach Merrick. I stared at his name. The rational part of me whispered, "Don't answer. Don't open that door again tonight. Don't make it worse." But his name glowed like a wound, like a confession he was already making just by dialing. I picked up, "Coach?" I hated how soft my voice sounded, like I'd been waiting for him. He exhaled, and even over the phone, it wasn't just a breath. It was the sound of a man who'd been holding everything in for far too long. "I know I shouldn't have called," he said. His voice was lower than it had been in the tunnel, rough and uneven, as if the day had finally caught up to him, and he was losing the battle he'd been fighting alone. "You okay?" I asked. "No," he said, quiet, honest, stripped down. "No, I'm not." Silence settled between us, thick and heavy, like the night itself was listening. He continued, "I tried to go home. I drove around the block twice. I thought distance would help." A pause. It didn't. My heartbeat wasn't steady anymore. What do you need?" He didn't answer right away. When he spoke, his voice was almost a whisper. "Just don't hang up yet." Something in my chest tightened, pulled taut by that single request. Not quite a plea, not quite a command, something vulnerable, unguarded. "You're still thinking about what happened," I murmured. "I'm trying not to," he admitted. "God, I'm trying, but it feels like I left half of myself in that tunnel with you." I closed my eyes, sinking deeper into the mattress. "You walked away first." "Because I had to, not because I wanted to." His honesty hit harder than anything else tonight. He wasn't a man who said more than necessary. But now his restraint was gone, unraveling thread by thread. I whispered, "Tell me why you called." There was a quiet rustle on his end. Maybe he sat down, maybe he ran a hand through his hair the way he always did when he felt too much. Finally, "Because it's the middle of the night," he said, "and I'm alone in a house that feels too damn empty, because I can still feel the way you looked at me when we almost—" He stopped himself, started again, slower. "Because you left, and suddenly everything was louder. My breath, my heartbeat, the things I didn't say. My breath caught, and I realized," he continued, "that I didn't want the last thing between us tonight to be quiet." The room felt smaller, my skin felt warmer. I whispered his name. His real name, not Coach, and the line went still, like he stopped breathing the moment he heard it. "I shouldn't want this," he said, voice cracking at the edges. "But I do, more than is good for either of us." A confession, a collapse. A man who spent years holding the world together, now failing, softly, painfully, because of me. "What do you want right now?" I asked. There was another long silence, and then, almost breaking, "You, just your voice, just something of you, until I can think straight again." And even though it was reckless, even though we were both standing on the edge of something we might never come back from, I whispered, "I'm here." And for the first time all night, I heard him breathe like a man who finally let himself feel something he'd been denying for far too long. I don't remember deciding to leave my apartment. One moment I was lying in bed, phone warm against my cheek, listening to the rough, quiet sound of his breathing on the other end of the line. The next, I was slipping on my shoes, grabbing my keys and whispering, "Don't hang up, okay?" He didn't ask where I was going. Maybe he already knew. Or maybe the silence between us spoke louder than any question could. The night air hit me the second I stepped outside. Cold enough to sting, sharp enough to make everything feel too real. But his voice, still in my ear, was soft in a way that erased the cold. "You're quiet," he murmured. "I'm thinking," I said. "About what?" You. He inhaled sharply, like he hadn't expected me to say it out loud. I got in my car, turned the engine. The headlights flooded the empty street. And still he didn't ask. Halfway to his neighborhood, he finally whispered, "You shouldn't come here." "I know. Turn around," he said. But his voice didn't match his words. It was too unsteady, too hopeful, too undone. "You don't want me to," I whispered. He didn't respond. Not with words. Just another one of those long, shaking exhales that sounded like everything he'd been holding inside was slipping through the cracks. "I shouldn't want this," he said slowly. "But tonight, everything feels different. And you..." He stopped himself, voice splintering. "You make it harder to stay the man I'm supposed to be." The road curved, leading into his neighborhood, dim and quiet at this hour. I turned off the main street and everything in me tightened. "Tell me to stop," I whispered. More silence. "Coach," I breathed, "tell me not to come." I could hear him, breathing like a man standing at the edge of something terrifying and necessary. "Finally." "I can't," he murmured. "I should. God, I should, but I can't." That was all I needed. I pulled into his street. Every house dark except his. One window glowing faintly, like he hadn't been able to turn the lights off since the moment he called me. My hands shook on the steering wheel, not from fear, from the gravity of what I was about to do. "I'm here," I whispered. I heard movement on his end of the line. Fast footsteps, a door opening somewhere inside his house. His voice was suddenly too close, too bare. "Stay on the phone until you reach the door." I walked up the path. The cold made my breath show in the air, but my skin felt overheated. His porch light flicked on. He'd turned it on for me. "You don't have to knock," he said softly. I reached the door, and it opened before I touched it. He stood there. Not the composed coach, not the man who carried everyone's weight but his own, but someone stripped raw by the night, by loneliness, by everything we'd been holding back. His voice was nothing more than a breath. "You came. I shouldn't have. But you did." We stared at each other, the doorway between us narrowing, the night pressing at our backs. And then quietly, almost painfully, "Come inside." He sat on the far end of the couch, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly, like he was trying to keep them from shaking. The soft lamp behind him cast a warm glow across his shoulders, making him look older and somehow more vulnerable. I didn't sit right beside him. Not immediately. I placed myself a few feet away, close enough to feel the warmth of his presence, but far enough to pretend we still had boundaries. He didn't look at me at first. He just stared at the floor, like he was searching for the right place to drop the truth without breaking something important. "I didn't call you because I was lonely," he said at last. My heart jolted. He lifted his head, eyes heavy, tired, unguarded in a way I'd never seen. "I mean, I am lonely. God knows I've been carrying that around for years." A humorless breath escaped him. "But that's not why I called." The air in the room felt tighter, like even the walls were waiting. He leaned back, head resting on the cushion, looking at the ceiling, as if the confession might be easier if he didn't see the effect it had on me. "I called because I couldn't stop replaying tonight," he said quietly. "Not what happened, not the tunnel, not the close calls." His voice dropped lower. "I kept thinking about the way you looked at me." My breath caught. "That look you gave me," he continued, "when you thought I wasn't paying attention, it damn near undid me." He finally turned toward me, his eyes full and raw. "You look at me like I'm still someone worth wanting." I didn't speak, couldn't. "I haven't felt that in a long time," he said. "Not since before my wife got sick. Not since everything in my life became about surviving instead of living." His throat tightened and he looked away again. "I told myself I was calling to check on you." A small broken laugh. "To be responsible. To be the good man I'm supposed to be." He shook his head. "But the truth is, I just needed to hear your voice, even for a minute." My pulse hammered, soft and uneven. He rubbed his palms against his jeans, restless. "When I heard you pick up, I felt..." He paused, searching for the word. "Relief," he swallowed. Like the ache I've been dragging around finally had somewhere to go. I felt my chest tighten painfully. He breathed out slowly, like he'd been holding that confession in for hours, maybe longer. "I called because I wanted you here," he whispered. "Not by accident, not because of the night, because I can't remember the last time being near someone made me feel..." He hesitated, voice rough. "Alive." The word hung between us, heavy and trembling. He leaned forward, elbows to his knees again, eyes on the floor. "I shouldn't want this," he said. "But wanting you has been the only honest thing in my life for months." Silence, not empty silence, full, charged. Breathing. I moved before thinking, just an inch closer, enough to make him look up, enough for our knees to almost touch. His breath caught, mine did too. He didn't reach for me, he didn't pull away, he just watched me, like he was waiting for me to step into a truth he couldn't say out loud. That wanting each other wasn't the dangerous part, needing each other was. I didn't plan to move, not consciously. 1 second, I was sitting inches away from him, trying to breathe evenly, trying to pretend his confession hadn't slipped under my skin like warm electricity. The next, I shifted closer. Just a small, careful movement of my leg, then my hand, then my entire body leaning subtly in his direction, like gravity had chosen for me. He noticed instantly. His shoulders stiffened, his breath faltered, his hands, clasped together between his knees, tightened until his knuckles went pale. But he didn't tell me to stop. He didn't move away. He just watched me, chest rising and falling, too slowly, like every part of him was working overtime to stay still. "Don't," he whispered. His voice was low and cracked, a warning wrapped in longing. I froze. But then he shook his head, eyes closing for a moment. "No, I didn't mean it like that," he murmured. "I meant, don't make this harder for me." I wasn't sure if he heard the soft sound I made, something between a breath and a confession. But it pulled his eyes back to mine. And this time, he didn't look away. He looked at me the way a man looks at water after walking through a desert. Exhausted, desperate, and scared of wanting it too much. My voice came out quiet. "I don't want you to be alone. You don't know what you're saying." "I do." Another inch. He swallowed. "Please," he murmured, "don't come any closer." But the way he said please wasn't a boundary. It was the sound of a man fighting himself and losing. My knee brushed his. Barely. His inhale was sharp enough to make my pulse jump. "Coach," I whispered. "Don't call me that right now," he breathed, eyes squeezing shut, as if the title made everything dangerously real. "Not here, not tonight." So I said his name, soft, unsteady, like it was something precious. His eyes opened, and whatever restraint he'd been clinging to slipped. He didn't touch me, didn't reach out. Instead, he whispered, "You're too close. I know. You're not making this easy." "I'm not trying to." A single beat of silence, heavy, pulsing. Then I shifted again, closing the last of the distance on the couch. Our knees pressed fully together now. Warmth against warmth. A quiet, trembling contact that felt more intimate than anything reckless we'd almost done. His breath hitched. He opened his mouth to say something. I could see the words forming, the conflict, the fear, the wanting, but nothing came out. Because my hand moved. I reached toward him slowly, giving him every chance to stop me, every chance to pull back. He didn't. My fingertips brushed the back of his hand, light, barely there. But he reacted as if I'd touched something hidden under armor. His jaw tensed. His breath trembled. His fingers twitched under mine like he didn't trust himself to turn his hand over and take me fully. "Why are you doing this?" he whispered. "Because you called me. That was a mistake. You don't sound like you believe that." He let out a low, aching sound, half laugh, half something much more broken. "You think sitting this close to you feels like a mistake?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to, because he finally, turned his hand over, palm up, offering it. A small gesture, almost nothing, but his voice was barely audible when he said, "I don't know how to be wanted like this anymore." I slid my fingers into his. His hand closed around mine instantly. Tight, warm, shaking just enough for me to feel it. He breathed out, shakily, like the simple act of holding my hand had undone him more than anything in that tunnel ever could. And then he whispered, almost against his will, "God, I've missed being touched." He didn't move at first. His hand was still wrapped around mine, warm and trembling, like he was afraid that if he loosened his grip, even a fraction, I'd disappear, or worse, that he'd lose control of himself completely. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was his breathing, unsteady, measured, too careful. "Don't look at me like that," he murmured, eyes fixed on our joined hands. "Like what?" "Like you're waiting for me to fall apart." I shifted a little closer, the cushion dipping under my weight. Our knees pressed more firmly together. His breath hitched. "Maybe I'm waiting for you to stop holding everything in," I said softly. He squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, a visible crack in the armor he'd spent years building. Then he let go of my hand, not to pull away, but to touch me, slowly, carefully, like his fingers were learning a language they'd forgotten. He lifted his hand and let it hover near my cheek first, close enough that I could feel the faint warmth of his skin, but not the contact. His voice came out low, rough. "I haven't touched anyone like this in a long time." "You can," I whispered, "if you want to." His fingertips brushed my cheek, barely, a soft, trembling glide that felt less like a touch and more like a question. He breathed out through his nose, shaky, as if the simple act unraveled something deep inside him. He moved his thumb slowly along my cheekbone, tracing it like he was memorizing the shape. Then his hand slid back toward my ear, his palm cupping the side of my face. Gentle, warm, almost reverent. My breath caught. He whispered, "God, you're warm." The words weren't lust. They were grief, loneliness, surprise, like he'd forgotten what closeness felt like. I leaned into his touch, instinctively, and he froze, as if he hadn't expected me to accept him so easily. Then, slowly, he let his thumb brush along my jaw, down the small curve beneath it, stopping just above my collarbone. He wasn't exploring, he was grounding himself. His hand trembled against my skin. "Are you okay?" I whispered. "I don't know," he said honestly. "It's been a long time since wanting something felt more comforting than dangerous." I placed my hand over his, holding it against my cheek. He inhaled sharply, a quiet, almost wounded sound. His forehead leaned toward mine, not touching, just close enough that our breaths mingled. He whispered, "You don't know what you're doing to me." "I think I do." He let out a low, shaky exhale. Then with a slowness that made my pulse stutter, his other hand lifted, hesitant, trembling, and came to rest lightly on my waist. Fingers settling into the fabric of my shirt, not pulling me closer, not guiding, just holding, a quiet, desperate hold. A man feeling another human body under his hands for the first time in years. He closed his eyes, his voice barely audible. "I forgot what this feels like. Someone breathing this close. Someone letting me touch them without flinching. Someone wanting me back." I touched his chest gently, over his heart. His breath stilled. He opened his eyes, meeting mine with a tenderness so raw it hurt to look at. "I shouldn't be doing this," he whispered. "But you are," I murmured, and his hand tightened on my waist, just enough to reveal how long he'd been starving for this. For a long moment, he didn't move. His hand stayed on my waist, fingers curled just slightly into the fabric of my shirt. Not possessive, not demanding, just holding. Like he needed the anchor. His thumb brushed the side of my ribs in a soft, absent motion, almost like he didn't realize he was doing it. A small movement, but it sent a warm shiver straight through me. He noticed. I could tell by the way his breath caught. He opened his eyes fully then, and whatever he'd been trying to hide, the ache, the fear, the hunger he'd starved out of himself for years, it all came through. "Come here," he whispered. Not an order, not even a request. A confession. I moved slowly, giving him space to stop me if he needed to, but he didn't. His hand slid farther along my waist, warm and steady, guiding me just enough to bring me closer. Not all the way. He was still holding himself back, like he was afraid he'd cross a line he couldn't return from. When I came close enough that my thigh brushed his, he inhaled sharply through his nose. "Too close?" I whispered. His jaw flexed as he swallowed. "Not close enough," he said, barely audible. I felt that deep, right in the center of my chest. He shifted his hand from my waist to my lower back, slow and controlled, fingers spreading slightly as if relearning the shape of another body. He pulled me toward him just an inch, gentle, deliberate, a man who knew his own strength and was terrified of misusing it. Our bodies lined up more fully now, warmth pressed to warmth. His breath brushed my forehead. I placed my hand lightly on his shoulder, unsure if he'd tense or pull back. He didn't. He leaned into the touch, his shoulders relaxing under my palm like he'd been bracing for impact his entire life. "You're shaking," I whispered. "I know." A beat. It's the first time in years that I'm not pretending I don't want something. His fingers pressed a little deeper into my back, pulling me another inch closer. The room felt smaller, quieter, like every sound outside the two of us had fallen away. His forehead lowered until it rested gently against mine. No urgency, no rushing, just contact, quiet, intimate, necessary. "I don't know how to do this slowly," he murmured, breath warm against my lips. "I've spent so long keeping myself numb." My hand slid down from his shoulder to his chest, feeling the steady, uneven rhythm of his breathing. "You're doing fine," I whispered. He gave a soft laugh, broken at the edges. "If this is me doing fine, then I'm in trouble." His thumb brushed the back of my spine in a slow, careful line that made me exhale shakily. He heard it, he felt it, and something in him softened. The restraint, the fear, the part of him that always held back. He lifted my chin slightly with his fingers, the touch feather light. "Tell me something," he said softly, "before I lose whatever control I have left." "Anything." His eyes held mine, warm, tired, full of want he didn't have words for. "Are you here because you couldn't stay away?" His thumb brushed my jaw. "Or because you didn't want me to stay alone?" I felt the question down my spine. Both answers were true, and neither of them were safe. But before I could speak, before I could find the version of the truth that hurt the least, he pulled me the last inch forward. Not forceful, not reckless, just sure. His hand slid fully around my back, holding me against him. Steady, protective, trembling with restrained need. I let out a soft sound, barely a breath, the kind of involuntary exhale that comes from being held exactly the way you've been wishing for without admitting it. He closed his eyes, forehead against mine, voice breaking. "I've wanted to do that since the night in the tunnel." The noise didn't belong in his living room. It didn't belong in the small, trembling space between our mouths, or in the warmth of his hands braced on either side of my waist, or in the way his forehead had just leaned, finally, against mine, like he'd run out of places to hide. But it came anyway, a sharp burst of sound from outside. Tires on gravel, a car door slamming, voices, too close, too real. He froze. Every part of him went still, not with guilt, but with that instinctive, protective tension I had seen on the field more times than I could count. His breath stopped against my cheek. His fingers tightened, just once, like a silent plea for me to hold still, to breathe, to not panic. We were still tangled together on his couch, my knees between his hands splayed against my spine, the air thick with everything we hadn't yet let ourselves do. Another sound, footsteps on his front walk. He exhaled through his nose, slow and sharp. "Damn it," he whispered, barely audible. "Not now." I tried to shift back, but his hand caught my hip, gentle, urgent. "Wait!" His eyes went to the door, then back to me. Something fierce flickered there, something that said he wasn't ready to let me go, not even for a second, not even for whoever might be outside. But the footsteps stopped, right at his door. A shadow moved under the crack. My heart punched the inside of my ribs. His jaw flexed. "Coach," a voice called, young, uncertain, unmistakably one of his players. "You home?" His eyes closed as if the universe was personally testing his last thread of control. When he looked at me again, it was a storm barely contained. "I shouldn't answer," he murmured. "Not like this." He looked at me as if this, me in his arms, his breath still trembling from where my lips had almost touched him, was the thing he couldn't let be seen, not because he was ashamed, but because it was too raw, too revealing, too close to something he had been refusing for months. The player knocked again, more insistent this time. He swallowed hard. "I need you to stay here," he whispered, voice rough enough to scrape. "Don't move, don't say anything." But his hand still hadn't left my body. In fact, it pressed deeper into my waist. as if every instinct he had was at war with the world outside that door. I nodded. He finally let go. Not quickly, not cleanly. His fingers slipped away from my skin like he needed to feel every last second of contact. He stood, breathing unevenly, running a hand through his hair, trying to erase the truth of what we were doing, and failing miserably. Another knock. "Coach, hey, it's important." He shot me one last look, the kind that could undo a person. A look that promised, "This isn't over, not even close." He stepped toward the door, and I stayed on the couch, pulse pounding, lips still ghosting, with the almost kiss he'd had to abandon because real life had come crashing up his driveway again. Waiting, holding my breath, terrified, thrumming, and more tethered to him than